In this video, I'm going to react to the story of the legendary SR-71 Blackbird. Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. This is the place where I react to music, media, sports, anime, anything related to popular culture. I'll watch it with an open mind and give you my 100% honest reaction to it. And if you could please hit that like button early, I'd really appreciate it. Now, this video has been coming for ages. I don't know why it's taken me so long to react to this plane, but I guess now's the perfect time, or now's the time it was meant to happen. So I know a few little bits and pieces about this plane. So number one, I believe the SR-71 to date is the fastest plane, the fastest passenger plane ever built, I believe. And it is mostly made of titanium, I think, or I think it's either mostly or all of it is titanium. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Like, I believe sourcing the titanium was really hard. But yeah, all of that, to be honest, this is why I need to watch this video, just so I can really understand, you know, the inception, you know, the inspiration behind it, why it was built, and, you know, why it's been retired, you know, because I don't think it's in use anymore. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. So let's go. This is going to be me reacting to the story of the SR-71 Blackbird. Let's do it.
Thanks to Squarespace for making this video possible and for helping launch my new mustard store. More on that after this video. In the midst of the Cold War, two MiG-25s raced to intercept the threat along the Soviet border. They're the fastest interceptors ever built, and if they really push their engines, they can reach an incredible Mach 3.2.
Wow.
But
Mach 3.2, so Mach 1 is, I believe, about 11 or 1200 miles an hour. So Mach 3.2 would be what, about 36,000 miles an hour, 38,000, something like that. Let me know in the comment section if I've completely fuddled those numbers.
it's not enough, because what they're chasing can outrun and outclimb any threat.
Just look at the silhouette of this masterpiece. I mean, this looks so futuristic. And considering this was designed, what, probably something like 40 years ago, maybe? I don't know. Look at that.
Threat, a plane engineered to be invulnerable.
Such a great shot. Look at that shot.
The Cold War locked the United States and Soviet Union into a tense struggle for global influence and control. Both sides poured enormous resources into military technologies, but getting an upper hand means knowing your opponent's next move. And in the 1950s, little was known about facilities deep within the Soviet Union. An extensive network of radar stations, surface-to-air missile sites, and interceptor air bases kept the Americans away. Until 1956, when U-2 spy planes began flying over the Soviet Union. Neither fast nor stealthy, U-2s had one critical advantage. At 70,000 feet, they could fly above Soviet air defenses. US President Eisenhower was even assured Soviet radars couldn't detect the U-2 at such high altitudes. But it turns out the Americans were wrong. The Soviets had tracked the U-2 since day one, and it was only a matter of time before they'd be able to shoot one down. Simply flying high wasn't enough. Even before the U-2 began its surveillance missions, there were already plans underway to replace it. Because true impunity over Soviet airspace would need a combination of incredible speed, altitude, and stealth.
I mean, yeah, it must be because you're constantly, both sides are constantly one-upping each other in terms of the military capabilities, the technological capabilities. It must be so hard to know exactly who is in the lead at any given time. Like, so for example, one side might, you know, have innovated some amazing new plane, but they don't know, unless they've got spies or like if they use espionage, they don't really know where if the other side has something equally capable or even better. So it's like, I imagine espionage and having people on the other side, spies, moles, must be critical, right? Or ways of intercepting information must be really important.
And this led the Americans to explore some pretty radical spy plane concepts, like a ramjet-powered aircraft that would be deployed from the bottom of a supersonic B-58. But in 1959, the CIA chose Lockheed to develop the next generation of spy plane. Meanwhile, the U-2 continued to fly over the Soviet Union, but not for very long, because in the spring of 1960, a Soviet surface-to-air missile finally managed to bring one down.
Wow.
The captured pilot and wreckage were paraded around the Soviet Union, used as proof of Western aggression. As tensions rose, now more than ever, the U.S. needed a replacement for the U-2.
Enter the Blackbird.
And what Lockheed developed would be unlike any aircraft ever built. A plane that nearly 60 years after its first flight remains the fastest air-breathing jet to ever fly.
Crazy.
Lockheed's highly classified spy plane would be known as the A-12. Originally used by the CIA for reconnaissance, the A-12 was also developed into an interceptor prototype, armed with air-to-air missiles, along with a variant that could launch an unmanned reconnaissance drone. But it was the SR-71 BLACKBIRd, a variant developed for the Air Force that would go on to serve for decades, while earlier versions were quickly retired.
I wonder why the earlier versions were quickly retired. Was it the maintenance, was maintaining them really hard to do? Because I imagine a machine that performs at such a high, such high speeds, I imagine the turnaround time must be quite long, right? Because the engines, I imagine, they're being pushed to the max. At least I guess they are being pushed to the max to be able to fly that quickly. Maybe that was why. Let me know in the comment section, please.
Blackbird could cruise at Mach 3.2, right near the edge of space, and do it for hours on end.
Wow.
To achieve this, Lockheed's engineers had to innovate pretty much everything from scratch. To sustain such incredible speeds, the SR-71 and its predecessors were powered by engines often described as turbo ramjets. Below Mach 2, they functioned like conventional afterburning jet engines. But above that, they behaved more like ramjets, as an inlet cone adjusted to bypass air around the engine and directly into the afterburner. At Mach 3.2, the SR-71's exterior would heat up to beyond 500 degrees Fahrenheit, easily hot enough to soften aircraft aluminum. The Lockheed engineers used titanium for 92% of the aircraft.
Wow, 92%, that's a lot of titanium. A lot. Where did they get it from?
And in the 1960s, this required inventing entirely new fabrication technologies. Its unusual shape did more than just spook UFO enthusiasts. It helped reduce its radar signature, as did its special black paint, which earned the SR-71 its Blackbird name.
Oh man, this has to be one of the best looking, if not the best looking aircraft I've ever seen. I mean, just look at this, man. This is just ridiculously good looking. I mean, like, I'd have to say this is probably better looking than the F-22, and I love the F-22. I mean, like, let me know, guys, what do you prefer aesthetically? Just pure aesthetics. This or the F-22? It's got to be this. This is just look at it.
The A-12 and SR-71 were first deployed over North Korea and Vietnam, where they were unsuccessfully targeted by over 800 surface-to-air missiles. But the spy plane never flew into Soviet airspace, at least not officially, because another shoot-down over the Soviet Union would be catastrophic. So instead, the SR-71 flew along its borders, using its powerful side-looking radars and cameras to peer hundreds of miles into Soviet territory. And that frustrated the Soviets. In 1976, Viktor Belenko defected to the West by escaping the Soviet Union in his MiG-25. He described the frustration of trying to intercept Blackbirds. The MiGs were Mach 3 capable, but only for a few minutes at a time, not for hours like the Blackbird. Nor could they climb to reach the SR-71's incredible altitude. Even their enormous R-40 missiles lacked the guidance needed to strike the SR-71 head-on. For years, the Blackbirds were practically invulnerable.
Wow.
They could outfly and outclimb any threat. But by the 1980s, MiG-31s were roaming the skies. Equipped with sophisticated radar and long-range R-33 missiles, they posed a legitimate threat, as did a new generation of Soviet surface-to-air missiles. But the greatest threat to the Blackbird wasn't an enemy missile or jet, it was itself.
Really?
No Blackbird was ever lost on a mission, but more than a third of the 50 built were destroyed in accidents.
What?
One literally disintegrated around its pilots.
What?
They were also enormously expensive to operate, each one siphoning about $300 million a year out of America's defense budget.
What? Each one, 300 million. Goodness me. So that must be man hours in terms of maintaining them, fuel maybe, replacing parts. Still, 300 million is a lot of money. And is this back then? Because I imagine you have to adjust that for inflation, or is that according to 2021 figures? Because if it's back then, if you adjust that for inflation, that's probably got to be what, at least coming up to like $1 billion? Something ridiculous maybe?
A fleet of special aerial refuelers and a small army of support and maintenance staff were needed just to keep these planes mission ready.
Wow.
And advances in spy satellites, aerial drones, and the SR-71's inability to deliver surveillance data in real time diminished some of the plane's utility. Add to that politics and infighting for defense budgets, and by the late 1980s, the SR-71's days were numbered. They were officially retired in 1998, with 2 sent to NASA for testing. The technology behind the A-12 and SR-71 is now well over 50 years old.
Wow.
Yet somehow these incredible planes still speak to us. Not about the past, but the future, leaving us with a sense of wonder, unlike any other in aviation history. A few months ago, I launched my mustard site with Squarespace. It was fun, easy, and
That was fascinating. I mean, to think that the technology, as the guy mentioned, is over 50 years old, you have to wonder, what does the world have now? What does America have now? You know, the UK, other, financially powerful countries, what do they have under wraps? I mean, surely there's no way that the SR-71 is actually still the fastest plane humanity can muster. I'm sure there's got to be something under wraps somewhere, because I mean, there's got to be, because there has to be maybe some kind of alloy that maybe, because the guy mentioned that one plane disintegrated around the pilot. Surely we have some kind of material now that can sustain that amount of heat and the conditions, the rigors that plane goes through, and still perform, and maybe won't be as expensive to produce as titanium and hard to locate. I don't know, but it's just really, really interesting plane. I definitely need to learn more about it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, and keep throwing the recommendations my way. I know I say it all the time, but they genuinely help me out, because if I know you enjoyed watching something, I'll definitely enjoy reacting to it. So like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, keep throwing the recommendations, and I'll catch you in the next one.